Imagine this. You're standing on a half-finished wall, the sun beating down on your neck, dust stinging your eyes. In one hand, you hold a heavy stone, ready to place it. In the other, you grip the hilt of a sword, its cold steel a constant reminder of the danger that lurks just beyond the horizon. This isn't a story of fantasy. This was the reality for the people of Jerusalem thousands of years ago. Welcome, everyone. Today, we're stepping back in time to a story of incredible faith, relentless determination, and courage under fire. A story that unfolds in the pages of the Bible, in the book of Nehemiah. After 70 years of exile, a remnant of the Jewish people had returned to their ancestral home, Jerusalem. But what they found was a ghost town. The once mighty walls that had protected their city, the symbol of their strength and security, were nothing but rubble. The gates, once bustling with life, were charred skeletons of their former glory. The city was defenseless, a ruin exposed to its enemies. Into this scene of despair steps a man named Nehemiah. He was a cupbearer to the most powerful king on earth, Artaxerxes of Persia. He lived a life of comfort and influence in the palace. But when he heard about the state of his people and his beloved city, his heart broke. He wept, he mourned, and he prayed. He knew he couldn't stand by and do nothing. With the king's blessing and resources, Nehemiah traveled to Jerusalem with a singular, audacious mission: to rebuild the walls. It was a task that seemed impossible. The rubble was immense, the resources were limited, and the people were discouraged. But Nehemiah was a leader of extraordinary vision and faith. He didn't just give orders from a distance. He got his hands dirty. He surveyed the ruins by night, under the cover of darkness, assessing the monumental task ahead. Then, he gathered the people, the priests, the nobles, the merchants, the goldsmiths, everyone. He spoke to their hearts, reminding them of God's promises and the shame of their current state. "Come," he said, "let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, that we may no longer be a reproach." And a fire was lit. The people caught his vision. A sense of purpose surged through them. They said, "Let us rise up and build." So they strengthened their hands for this good work. Families worked together, each taking responsibility for the section of the wall in front of their own house. It was a beautiful picture of unity and shared purpose. The sound of construction filled the air, a symphony of hope rising from the ashes. But not everyone was happy about this. The enemies of Jerusalem, men named Sanballat and Tobiah, saw the walls rising and they were furious. They couldn't stand the thought of Jerusalem being strong again. At first, they just mocked them. "What are these feeble Jews doing?" they sneered. "Will they revive the stones from the heaps of rubbish? If a fox goes up on it, he will break down their stone wall." But when their ridicule failed to stop the work, their threats escalated. They plotted to come and attack Jerusalem and create confusion. The workers became afraid. The threat was real. These weren't idle words. They were a promise of violence. Imagine the fear. You're trying to build a future for your family, and every shadow could be an enemy, every distant shout a war cry. This is the moment of crisis, the moment where most would give up. But this is where the story gets truly incredible. This is where Nehemiah's leadership shines. He didn't ignore the threat, nor did he abandon the work. He did both. He prayed to God, and he set a guard. This is the powerful image we see in the 4th chapter of Nehemiah. Half of the men worked on the wall, while the other half stood guard, armed with spears, shields, bows, and armor. Even the builders themselves were armed. The text tells us that those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon with the other. Every single builder had his sword strapped to his side as he worked. Think about that for a second. Building with one hand, fighting with the other. A trowel in one hand, a sword in the other. It's the ultimate picture of faith in action. They trusted God for protection, but they also took up their swords to defend themselves. They understood that faith wasn't passive. It required vigilance. It required courage. It required being prepared to fight for what God had called them to build. Nehemiah told the people, "Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes." He established a signal system with a trumpet, so if an attack came at one section of the wall, the sound of the trumpet would rally everyone to that point to defend it. They worked from the crack of dawn until the stars came out, never letting their guard down. This story isn't just an ancient account of a construction project. It's a powerful lesson for all of us. We all have walls to build in our lives, walls of faith, family, integrity, and purpose. And just like Nehemiah, we will face opposition. There will be voices of doubt, criticism, and fear that try to stop us. There will be spiritual battles we have to fight. Nehemiah teaches us to work with a trowel in one hand and a sword in the other. We must be builders, actively working on what God has called us to do. But we must also be warriors, vigilant and prepared to defend our faith and our families against the attacks that will inevitably come. We pray and we set a guard. We trust and we act. In the end, against all odds, the wall was completed in just 52 days. It was a miracle that left their enemies disheartened, because they perceived that this work had been accomplished with the help of God. This powerful story of resilience, faith, and action is found in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 4. I encourage you to read it for yourself and let its message sink in. What walls is God calling you to build? And are you prepared to both work and fight for them? Thank you for joining me on this journey back in time. If this story inspired you, please subscribe to our channel for more content that brings faith to life. We'll see you in the next video.